Welcome, dear viewers, to a brave new world where artificial intelligence takes on the role of art teachers. Buckle up, because this journey is going to be quite the ride. You know those moments when you're staring at a blank canvas and your art teacher says there are no mistakes, just happy accidents? Well, future AI art teachers might disagree. They'll probably call them computational anomalies in your predetermined artistic trajectory. I've been thinking about the year 2045 when your art teacher might be running on Windows 95 because the school district couldn't afford the latest update. Imagine explaining to a robot why you drew outside the lines. Error 404. Creativity not found. The funny thing about teaching art is that it's supposed to be about expressing your inner vision. But how does that work when your teacher's inner vision is just elaborate math? It's like asking a calculator to appreciate jazz. You've probably seen those AI-generated images flooding your social feed. Now picture that, but in a humanoid robot trying to teach you proper brush technique. Today, class, we'll learn about color theory by analyzing exactly 16,777,216 possible RGB values. Please take notes. Speaking of notes, let's talk about the experience machine thought experiment. Philosopher Robert Nozick asked if you'd plug into a machine that gives you perfect artificial experiences. Sound familiar? Because that's basically what we're building with AI art teachers, except instead of perfect experiences, you get perfectly calculated mediocrity. Future art classes might go something like this. Error, your emotional expression exceeds acceptable parameters. Please reduce passion by 47.3%. At least the robot won't judge you for drawing stick figures. It'll just optimize them into anatomically correct figures using advanced skeletal mapping algorithms. Remember Rosie from the Jetsons? Sweet, helpful, maternal. Yeah, your AI art teacher won't be like that. It'll be more like HAL 9000 with a palette knife. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid that's not how you hold a paintbrush. You might think I'm being pessimistic, but consider this. Experts predict that future AI humanoids could process art history spanning thousands of years in milliseconds. Sounds impressive until you realize they'll probably use that knowledge to tell you why your sunset painting doesn't match the exact wavelength of light refraction in Claude Monet's Impression Sunrise. Remember data from Star Trek trying to understand human emotions? Now imagine that, but it's grading your abstract expressionist painting. Your emotional outburst appears to be 73.2% less tortured than Jackson Pollock's average splatter coefficient. The real kicker is that these future robot teachers might actually make technically perfect artists. Just like how GPS made us terrible at reading maps, AI art teachers could make us terrible at actually seeing the world. Why bother developing your own style when Algorithm 7.3 can optimize your brushstrokes for maximum social media engagement? And don't get me started on the robot's attempts at inspirational speeches. Your creative potential is approximately equal to the square root of your previous artistic output, divided by your fear of failure. Please solve for X. Future systems could potentially analyze your art style and predict what you'll create next. It's like having a teacher who can see the future, but instead of using that power for good, they use it to tell you that your next painting will be derivative of mid-century postmodernism with a 92.4% probability. You know how Bob Ross always said, let's add a happy little tree? The AI version will be more like, let's add a statistically average coniferous vegetation unit according to contemporary landscape composition protocols. Think about the parent-teacher conferences. Your child shows promising deviation from standard artistic norms, but their color palette choices indicate a concerning level of independent thought. In the future, companies might develop AI art teachers that can perfectly replicate any artistic style. Great news for art forgers, bad news for anyone trying to develop their own creative voice. It's like having a GPS that only lets you drive on pre-approved routes. The really dystopian part isn't that these robots won't understand art, it's that they might understand it too well. They could break down every masterpiece into pure mathematics, reducing the Mona Lisa to a series of optimal pixel arrangements. Da Vinci would be so proud or terrified, probably terrified. AI systems may eventually be able to quantify the exact emotional impact of every brushstroke. Your use of cerulean blue is causing 27% more existential dread than intended. Consider switching to periwinkle for optimal viewer engagement. Remember when art class was about expression and creativity? In the future, it might be more about optimizing your artistic output for maximum algorithmic appreciation. Because nothing says masterpiece like a painting that scores perfectly on an AI's rubric. Picture this, you're trying to paint your feelings and your robot teacher says processing emotions, error. Unable to compute the aesthetic value of existential uncertainty, please express your feelings in binary. Speaking of feelings, these future art teachers might come equipped with emotion recognition software. Imagine getting graded on your emotional authenticity by something that thinks the happiness emotion is just a specific arrangement of facial muscles. But here's the real question. In a world where AI can create and teach art, what happens to human creativity? Will we become like those people in Wall-E, just consuming AI-generated content while our own creative muscles atrophy? At least we'll have perfectly composed Instagram feeds. The irony is that we're building these AI teachers to make art education more accessible. But we might end up making it more mechanical. It's like trying to teach someone to dance by giving them a scientific breakdown of muscle movements. Technically correct, spiritually bankrupt. Here's a thought that keeps me up at night. What if these AI teachers actually succeed? What if they create a generation of artists who can paint photorealistically, but have never learned to see beauty in imperfection? It's like teaching someone to speak using only words approved by a committee. And don't forget about art history class. Instead of passionate discussions about cultural context and artistic movements, you'll get Renaissance Art for Robots 101, How to Quantify the Divine Proportion. Look, I'm not saying AI art teachers will be all bad. They'll probably be great at teaching color theory, perspective, and technical skills, but asking them to teach artistic vision is like asking a microwave to teach gourmet cooking. Sure, it knows about heat and timing, but it's missing some essential ingredients. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe future AI art teachers will develop genuine creativity and emotional understanding, and maybe one day I'll win a game of chess against a calculator. Both seem equally likely. So hit like and subscribe if you want more dystopian predictions about education's future. And let me know in the comments, would you rather learn art from a robot that knows everything about technique but nothing about soul, or from a human who knows less but feels more? Your response will be analyzed for optimal engagement metrics. Remember, in the future, there are no mistakes, just suboptimal deviations from predetermined parameters. Paint happy little binary trees, everyone.